She was dressed in white less than 12 hours ago. The flowers from the ceremony were still sitting in their vases. The wedding cake had barely been touched. Guests had danced until their feet ached. Family members had taken 1,000 photographs, and somewhere in one of those photographs, she was smiling. The kind of smile that comes from finally believing that everything you have worked for, everything you have survived, is about to pay off. She believed that night was the beginning of her life. It was the end of it. This is the story of a woman who carried a secret into her marriage, not because she was dishonest, not because she was trying to deceive anyone, but because she had learned from the world she grew up in that the truth about who she was before him could destroy everything. And so, she kept it. She buried it. She told herself that it didn't matter.
That once they were married, once they had built a life together, he would see her, the real her, and none of it would matter anymore. She was wrong. What you are about to hear is drawn from real events, real cases, real women. Women who lost their lives because someone decided that their past was more important than their present, more important than their future, more important than their very existence on this earth. By the time this story is over, I want you to understand one thing clearly. There is no secret worth a woman's life. There is no past that justifies a murder. And the idea that a man has the right to destroy a woman for who she was before she met him, that idea is the real crime in this story. Let's begin.
If you want to uncover more chilling true crime stories and see justice exposed, subscribe to Crime Vaults as we bring light to the darkest true crime cases and never miss the secrets hidden in plain sight. Her name was Samia. Samia Shahid was 28 years old. She was from Bradford in the north of England, a city with a large and tight-knit Pakistani Muslim community, the kind of community where everyone knows everyone, where family reputation travels faster than news, and where the decisions a young woman makes about her personal life are never entirely her own private business. By all accounts from people who knew her, Samia was what you would call a light in any room she walked into. Her friends described her as warm, bubbly, funny, someone who always had a smile ready, who made the people around her feel good. She worked as a beautician. She loved the artistry of it, the transformation, the ability to help someone look in the mirror and feel something positive about what they saw. She was caring. She was social. She was the kind of person people were genuinely glad to know. But Samia had grown up inside a world with very specific rules, and those rules had shaped her life in ways she would spend years trying to navigate. In 2012, when Samia was around 22 years old, her family arranged a marriage for her. Her husband was her first cousin, a man named Shakil. The wedding was held in Pakistan, where most of the extended family lived, with all the ceremony and celebration that such occasions bring. There are photographs from that day. Samia is smiling in them. She looks like a bride who believes in what is ahead of her. But the marriage did not work. The details of what went wrong between Samia and Shakil were never fully disclosed publicly. What we know is that by 2014, Samia had obtained a divorce through the Islamic Sharia Council in the United Kingdom. She was free, legally, officially, on paper, she was free. But she knew what freedom would cost her in the eyes of her family. In her community, a woman who left a marriage, who chose herself over an arrangement her family had made, who walked away from a cousin her parents had selected for her, would face judgment. She would face the kind of social punishment that doesn't leave visible bruises, but leaves scars that never fully heal. She would be talked about, questioned, blamed. And so she told very few people about the divorce. She carried that secret quietly, carefully, the way women in her position have carried secrets for generations. And then she fell in love. His name was Mukhtar. They met in London. He was kind, he was steady. He was exactly the kind of man she had not expected to find in the middle of a life that had already been so complicated. They were careful at the start. Quiet dates, slow steps, the caution of two people who understand that love in their world is never a simple, uncomplicated thing. But the love between them was real. It deepened with time. It held. In September 2014,
Samia and Mukhtar were married in Leeds. It was a small wedding, arranged among friends. Nothing like the elaborate ceremony of her first marriage, but it was hers, chosen freely, entered with open eyes and an open heart. This one was for her. Shortly after the wedding, they made a decision that felt at the time like the most hopeful decision of their lives. They moved to Dubai together. A new city, a new chapter, a life built on their own terms, thousands of miles away from the family politics and community scrutiny that had shadowed Samia since she was old enough to understand what was expected of her.
For 16 months in Dubai, by Mukhtar's own account, she was happy, genuinely, visibly happy. The city gave them space and distance and anonymity. Samia had her work, she had her husband, she had the daily, ordinary feeling of living a life that was actually, finally, her own. But the past has a way of following people, and Samia's past was about to come for her. In July 2016, Samia Shahid received a phone call from her family back in Pakistan. The message was straightforward and devastating. Her father was critically ill. He might not survive. She needed to come home immediately while there was still time. Mukhtar did not believe it. He told her clearly, and these are his exact words, recounted to police and journalists in the months that followed. He told her, "Obviously, I could see it was a lie." He could feel something wrong in that phone call. He knew that her family had never accepted their marriage. He knew that her divorce from Shakil, her first husband, had never been acknowledged by them. In their eyes, Samia was still Shakil's wife. Her marriage to Mukhtar was not a marriage at all. It was to them a betrayal of the highest order, and Mukhtar knew that her family harbored a rage toward her for it, a rage that in his gut told him was not safe.
He begged her not to go, but Samia loved her father. Whatever the politics, whatever the pressure, whatever her family had done and failed to do, she loved him. The thought of her father dying without her being there to see him one last time was something she could not sit with. She could not choose safety over that. So she went. She flew to Islamabad and traveled to the family home in the Jhelum district of Punjab in northern Pakistan. And from the moment she arrived, she kept a promise to Mukhtar. She sent him messages every day, regular, steady messages across the distance between Dubai and Pakistan. She was doing it deliberately, methodically, proving to him that she was present, that she was all right, that his fears were unfounded, that she would be home soon. The messages came without fail, every day. And then one day, they stopped. No explanation, no warning, no final message. They simply stopped arriving. Mukhtar waited. He called. He got no answer. He messaged everyone he could reach. And eventually, word came back to him from Pakistan. Samia was dead.
Her family told the first version of the story quickly and cleanly. She had died in her sleep. A heart attack, they said. A young woman's heart had simply given out. A tragedy, yes, but a natural one. Nothing suspicious, nothing to investigate, nothing to see. Her uncle had already obtained a death certificate from the local council before any forensic examination had been conducted. The first doctor called to the scene found no visible injuries and recorded the death as natural. The family wanted her buried as quickly as possible. They wanted the story to stay simple. A heart attack. The end. Mukhtar Kazim, sitting alone in their apartment in Dubai, their home, the one they had furnished and argued over and laughed in together, did not believe a single word of it. Mukhtar did what men with nothing left to lose and everything to fight for often do. He went to the authorities.
He contacted both British officials and Pakistani police, telling them everything: the secret first marriage, the hidden divorce, the second marriage that her family had refused to accept, the hostility her ex-husband Shakil had shown, the call about the sick father that Mukhtar had known from the first moment was not what it claimed to be. He told them she had been lured. He told them she had been killed. He told them her death was not a heart attack, it was a murder dressed up to look like one. Pakistani authorities moved slowly at first. The initial investigation was deeply inadequate. The lead officer allowed Samia's mother and sister, both British nationals, both potential suspects, to leave Pakistan and fly back to England before any serious questioning had taken place.
That officer, a man named Abbas, was later suspended from duty for mishandling the case. He was eventually arrested for concealing evidence. But the pressure mounted. Mukhtar kept pushing. British politicians took up the cause. International journalists began covering the story. And eventually, a senior investigator was brought in to take over, the Deputy Inspector General of Punjab Police, a man named Abu Bakr Books. He ordered a fresh and thorough forensic examination of Samia's body. He pulled phone records. He traced the movements of everyone who had been in and around that house during the days Samia was there. He interviewed every witness he could find.
What the examination revealed was not a heart attack. Forensic investigators found marks on Samia's neck. She had been strangled. And the investigation went further, establishing that before she was killed, Samia had been sexually assaulted. Her ex-husband, Shakil, the man she had divorced 2 years earlier, the man her family had never stopped considering her real and legitimate husband, was arrested on suspicion of her murder. And while in custody, Shakil confessed. He admitted to drugging Samia. He admitted to strangling her. And according to the findings of the investigation, her father, her own father, the man whose supposed illness had been the bait used to bring her to Pakistan, had stood guard outside the room while it happened. Deputy Inspector General Books was unambiguous about what his team had concluded. His words, reported at the time, "We have completed our investigation and concluded that this was a premeditated, cold-blooded honor killing." Premeditated, cold-blooded.
They had planned it. The phone call about the dying father was not a moment of impulse or emotion. It was a trap. It had been constructed deliberately to get Samia out of Dubai, away from her husband, away from any legal protection she might have had, and into a house in Pakistan where the people who believed she had shamed them could reach her without interference. The investigation also implicated Samia's mother and her sister, both of them British citizens, who were accused of participating in luring Samia into that trap. Pakistani authorities later declared them proclaimed offenders and sought their extradition from the United Kingdom. Let that settle for a moment.
The people who killed Samia Shahid were not strangers. They were not criminals who came to her from outside her life. They were her father, her ex-husband, her mother, her sister. The people who, by every law of nature and love, should have protected her more fiercely than anyone else on the planet. They killed her because she had left a marriage they chose for her. They killed her because she had chosen a man they didn't approve of. They killed her because she had taken her own life into her own hands, had made her own choices, had built her own future. And in the world they operated from, that was an act so unforgivable that death was the only answer they could think of.
What followed was a legal process that stretched across years and laid bare every failure of a system that has been criticized for generations for failing women exactly like Samia. Shakil and Samia's father were both charged with her murder. A trial was opened in a Pakistani court. Both men denied the charges. And here is where the system began to collapse, in the way it always collapses in these cases. Shakil's confession, the one he had reportedly given to police while in custody, was inadmissible in court under Pakistani law. Under that legal framework, a confession given to police officers, rather than directly before a magistrate, cannot be used as evidence in trial proceedings. It is a legal technicality, a gap in the system. And it is a gap that has protected perpetrators of honor killings in Pakistan for decades. Without that confession, the case grew difficult. In September 2018, Shakil was released on bail. The man who had confessed to strangling Samia, who had admitted to drugging her, who investigators had named as her killer, walked out of custody while the case was still untried. As of the most recent available reporting on this case, the trial had not reached a final verdict. The case that Deputy Inspector General Books had called premeditated, cold-blooded murder had moved at the pace of a system that was not designed and did not appear to be motivated to deliver real justice to women like her. Samia's father, Mohammed Shahid, the man who had allegedly stood guard while his daughter was killed, the man whose fake illness had been used as the weapon to bring her within reach, had been granted bail by the Lahore High Court in December 2016. The court ruled that the evidence was insufficient to keep him detained. He died in a Lahore hospital in January 2018. He died without ever being convicted of anything. He died, as far as the law was concerned, an innocent man. And Mukhtar, the man who had loved Samia, who had seen through the phone call from the very first second, who had begged her to stay, who had spent the months and years after her death fighting through press conferences and police complaints and appeals to governments on 2 separate continents, was left in Dubai, in their apartment, surrounded by everything she had left behind. He told reporters, "I want justice for Samia. Women have their own rights, their own will. They are not prisoners. Killing a daughter is not the solution." A simple statement, an obvious one. And yet, in the world that Samia Shahid had been born into, it was a radical thing to say out loud. I need to stop here and be direct with you, because this is the part of the story that carries the most weight. Samia Shahid is not an isolated case. She is not a tragedy that happened once to one unlucky woman in one unusual set of circumstances. She is one name on a list that is unconscionably long, and that list grows every single year.
According to Pakistan's Human Rights Commission, approximately 1,000 women are murdered in so-called honor killings in Pakistan every year. 1,000 women every year. And those are only the reported cases, the ones that actually make it into official statistics. The real number, when you factor in the deaths that are covered up as accidents, as suicides, as sudden illness, as a heart attack in the night, is believed to be significantly higher. Globally, the United Nations estimates that approximately 5,000 women and girls are killed in honor-related crimes every year. Some researchers put the true figure closer to 20,000 when you account for the cases that are never investigated, never reported, never entered into any official count. These crimes do not only happen far away. They do not only happen in countries with no functioning legal system. If you want to uncover more chilling true crime stories and see justice exposed, subscribe to Crime Vaults as we bring light to the darkest true crime cases and never miss the secrets hidden in plain sight.